Why do Minecraft's gear additions feel empty? So I've had some issues with the additions of gear upgrades like netherite, the mace, and the spear. Now they're not bad additions. As a matter of fact, they're fun to play with and I like the additions. But their power worried me. So much so I made a video about power creep. Since that video got a ton of comments after reading and replying to hundreds of them, I got a grasp on the views I had right and wrong. Now starting off, I'd like to say that the overarching statement of if they keep adding more and more powerful weapons, it will be dangerous to the game. I still find that true. But let's move on. Let's take an item like the trident. Trident was added 1.13, and I think it was actually a really well made addition. First off, it added a new threat to the empty waters. The ocean was terribly empty and easy at the time. They added drowns, and the trident drowns were actually threatening compared to the regular ones. Two, it provided an interesting hybrid between the sword and bow. It was a ranged option if you had loyalty anyways, and you could also use it close range. Now, it is terrible in like both categories when compared to the bow and sword, but it's better to be on the lower side and still be interesting to use rather than be on the overpowered side. Early game, if you get a trident, it feels really good because it has good damage compared to the sword, so it outclasses free enchantments and then gets outclassed quickly when enchantments come into play. And 3, added a new form of transportation called Riptide. And even in the late game, people will use it to go through oceans quickly, just for jumping to start your elytra, or going through the rain really quickly. It still has use cases late game. The Trident's also like the water version of the bow, which is kind of gives it a niche opportunity, although there's not much to fight in the water. It's still, I think, a really good way that they did it. The Trident made itself an interesting addition, even though it's underpowered. Now let's look at the Mace. The Mace itself provides no new challenges, because no mobs actually use it. It does so much damage, it's unnecessary. And it has little to no use in day-to-day. Like, I won't go out and ever use the Mace to kill anything. There's no point. The Trident, I can, melee a mob to death early game. I can throw it at a distance if I want to use channeling on something. And Riptide, I can actually use late game. Now, it's very powerful, but only in certain conditions, because you need to fall a distance. And it doesn't have to be that big of a distance, but like, if you have Wind Burst, that causes fall damage issues if you're not water bucket clutching. And if you don't use Wind Burst, then you only get like one hit. And if it's a group of mobs, you're screwed. It's very situational. There were many comments saying this in the last video, and after looking at it, I agree with you guys. So using this, I figured out what was bugging me about the Mace. There's no reason to get it at all. Like, yes, it's powerful, but it's only for situations that don't exist, and so no one actually goes to get it. There's no monster that has a bunch of health that you need to deal with it. There's no use outside of its damage, so why would I go and gamble for 3 hours in the trial chambers for it? There's no actual reason. Same thing with netherite armor. It provides very few benefits, as it just gives you a little bit of knockout resistance, which is good. It's interesting. More durability, which is useless when you get mending, which by the time you have netherite, you probably will have mending, but it's impossible to repair. And it provides a little bit more defense. The tools are faster, I understand, but that's not quite enough. So both of the items are just collected for their status rather than their use, which I believe is poor game design. These items I deem to be eye candy updates, as they really only provide value in testing and not in base survival. Like, yeah, they're fun to goof around in PvP or other scenarios, but in base survival Minecraft, it doesn't really work. Now the spear. The spear is easily obtained and has high power, but like the mace, it's cumbersome to use. But it is easier to use and it has less damage. So on the front end, I now think I will say that the spear is in a better spot, a much better spot than the mace. It isn't hard to get, so people can actually use it, but it's too difficult to use, make it overpowered. No, you don't need a mount to use it. Yes, it has reach, but the spear's reach damage is kind of meh. And shields already block creepers, so having distance doesn't matter too much in Minecraft, as there's not many mobs that haven't reached that isn't just ranged. And then the actual damage output with mounts and stuff, like how often do you actually use a mount? It has a unique use case with its range and encourages other game mechanics. This is good. Having a weapon that encourages the use of other mechanics like the mounts is a good way to tie them into the game and make it feel integrated and not just separate and alienated. Now, I know the elytra is very powerful, but if you have the elytra, you're not going to use it to kill anything. You can just fly away. Yeah, you can like dive bomb it, I guess, but there's no mod that needs like that much damage, same as the mace. So the elytra combo is kind of Now, except for the lunge enchantment. The movement is too good, and it takes away your food, lets you just heal indefinitely early game, and enchants are pretty early game too. I do still think this is going to be way too strong for post enchantments. Alright, I didn't talk about PvP in the last video, so I want to touch on that just a little bit. Now, this is my opinion. So take it with a grain of salt. This is what I think. Don't take everything down to details. I personally find the items like the Trident to not give enough to PvP because they're outclassed everything else. So the Trident PvP side, I wish it did more. It's very hard to use practically because it doesn't do enough damage. Spear and Mace, I think will be are unfun additions because of how quickly you can kill, especially in high level fights. I think if you do PvP early with Spear with the lunge, it'd be interesting. Or like with obviously jousting would be really cool, but like in late game, Spear and Mace are terrible because it's like, oh, you got bonked in the head and you died. GG. I don't find that fun. And netherite is just adding to the more sluggish fights of full enchanted diamond. And the really long fights, I don't find fun. Really short fights, I don't find fun. I think we need a nice middle ground, and these items are complete polar opposites that are not in a good spot. Now, just to make sure that this is understood, I'm talking about PvP that is like for SMP or survival-esque. These items are really good if you can customize your PvP experience. You know, like mini games, I love the Mace because it's really fun to play with, and if you just add correct nerfs to it, it'll be really engaging to use and feel really rewarding. But like in your average survival, if someone gets the Mace, it's not going to be that fun to go against, especially if you don't have the facilities to run faster than they can jump. All right, so pushing PvP aside, solutions. I think an optional mob or boss. I know Mojang won't add the bosses, just hear me out, okay? Think of the Mace, all right? The Mace is an item that encourages you to do damage through falling multiple blocks, and it does a lot of damage. So let's use that. Let's have a mob that has a lot of health, all right? Maybe give it some defense, so breach is useful, and its literal main attack flings you in the air. Or it has some kind of side thing that launches you up, so you can use the Mace on it as like an actual game mechanic to encourage this. Kind of like the Iron Golem, but like actually launches you. This encourages you to be able to use the Mace to actually do well. You can use the sword and other stuff. I mean, you can still stab it. It take a while, but like you're not taking away people's options, but you're encouraging a specific use case of the Mace. And then make this a mob drop something related to the fight or gear. So for example, this monster could drop a launch pad, all right? I know, just listen to the actual concept, okay? This launch pad can launch you upwards from any position, kind of like a slime block would. So you can use it to get to your base, you can use it to launch into a base, you can use this with the Mace to get easier hits, you can use this with an elytra to launch yourself off. But then instead of having to go and get the Mace just for the Mace, I might go get the Mace to kill this guy easier so I can get more launch pads for my builds. So you can cater towards the PvP audience and the building audience at the same time, because the building audience can get the Mace if they'd like to have an easier time, and the PvP audience can fight it without the Mace. Or PvE, not PvP, I apologize. So it's kind of like, you've got to add more extrinsically motivated goals. See, now the people that want the Mace have a reason to go get it because they can go fight this guy as a goal of theirs. All right, 2 is the Spear. Because the enemy's movement speed matters, any mob with a charge-like ability could help the Spear counter. So if the mob would like charge towards you, the Spear would do great damage to it. I think actually having the undead husk have a charge attack would be pretty interesting, because then the Spear would actually do like crazy damage to it, and then the mob on the camera would also do crazy damage. So I think it'd be interesting. But for now, that's kind of just the part shoots you and the other guy does good damage. With all the mounted mobs, a lot of them are kind of fast. I think the Spear is actually not in a bad place. Besides the launch, you cannot change my mind. That's gonna be really good. 3 is netherite gear. This is the hardest one in my opinion, because it's basic stat buffs that aren't like niche or interesting to make a compelling fight. It was kind of just there as an upgrade for no reasons. I guess just some harder challenge, really, or something like the anti-knockback would help with, because besides that, it's just I got cool armor, and no one in their average playthrough is going to get that besides the I got cool armor, which having a gear upgrade as a trophy, I don't like that game design wise personally. Now, yes, I understand that this is a sandbox game, and you don't have to go get the armor, but I want the cool armor, okay? I want a reason to go get it. It's just a waste to have something that I should avoid. That seems rather odd, right? Like, let's add a feature and then make it too good so people have to avoid it to make it have fun. Like, that's just poor game design. All right, sum it up. The new gear items are cool and fun, but they feel disconnected to the base game due to there being nothing compared to the difficulty to obtain. And Lunge is too strong. I forgot that. All right, for this last part, I want to read out some of the comments from my last video because they helped change my point of view. I found them funny, pointless, or just rage bait. I mean, some of them were actually just there to try to get under my skin, but I mean, they deserve a spot because I found them funny. All right, so I wanted to just like, at the end of this video, review some of the comments in the last one because I had a lot of comments. These are a lot of comments that I wanted to point out because I liked them or they thought they were funny or whatever. I think Mojang is focusing a lot on improving PvP in early game and cautiously optimistic they will address PvE in late game later. Imagine if we got an end update with all new bosses or new dungeons in the overworld, and now there's the quality of trial tapers, but for late end game. Zombie raids or piglin raids would be fantastic too. Definitely hoping for the future, but for now though, at least Zorus and Zodalus jockeys will make the things stat better. I agree. I think this is a great take, and Mojang's definitely catering towards early game because they want new content features to be accessible quickly, at least for the most part. I know some other items like the Mace and other I haven't really concluded that, but like a lot of their things they're adding are really front loaded, which makes things feel a little off balance. All right, here's the one by Autinod. Grow the fuck up. What an incredibly immature video to make. What are you like 14? There is no thing that will end Minecraft. People will always keep playing it. Mojang is a big company with a big team of adults who know what they are doing. You're just a kid on the internet. Get a life. Wow. Big words from a guy with a troll profile picture. But I will humor your comment. So let's have a look at this. Also, my apologies. I was like responding to everything and I somehow missed yours 8 days ago. Like, that's actually my bad. I didn't mean. Let's see. Grow the fuck up. How about no? 2, what an incredibly immature video to make. I don't know how just judging Mojang's editions is immature, but go off, I guess. What do you like, 14? No, I'm much older than 14. There is no thing that will end Minecraft. I said it will be the end of Minecraft. I didn't say it's ended Minecraft already. If they keep adding a bunch of more powerful weapons, they get stronger and stronger without a limit, and they never ever add something to counteract that, it would make Minecraft much less fun, and eventually it could die. Yes, is that an over-exaggeration? It's a hyperbole, whatever you want to call it. It is an exaggeration. You're not meant to take the title only that seriously. Watch the video, please. People will always keep playing it. No. If Mojang sat down and made microtransactions every 2 seconds, like EA, people would stop playing it. Mojang is a big company. Yes, it is. With a big team of adults who know what they are doing. That does not make them immune to critique. People can make mistakes. Even a big team of adults, as you claim them to be. Okay? They are not immune to criticisms or people's opinions. Here's a kid on the internet. Get a life. You could also get a life. No one made you comment this. 610. Below is crafting away a sheet of paper. Okay, I swear I remember the brush taking 3 feathers to make. I know it was a terrible way to craft, but it was something like that, okay? And I don't go archaeology digging very often. And we have Baseball 12, the boat with, I think that's a Bochi the Rock profile picture, saying, after watching the video fully, I'm glad you didn't say nerf the mace or spear, and I actually agree with you more than I thought I would. But I definitely would not describe the spear or mace or as OP. This requires the height to use effectively, which means wind charges, building or using natural terrain. And for regular mobs, there's really no need to do that, and the sword does the job much simpler and faster. The only thing that Mace stands out for its ability to one-shot the Ender Dragon, Wither, and Warden. And in order to do so, require a major risk and the right amount of setup to attempt to do so. If you took this away, the risk is no longer worth the reward, plus the Ender Dragon and Wither are incredibly easy to kill without the Mace anyway. And same with the Warden if you're counting cheesy strats. After the spear, stab attack as was useless because it's slow damage and its time to kill is annoyingly long, to the point where I'd much rather use a sword. And the charge attack on the foot is lacking. But I'm ultimately fine with this, though I'd like to see a jab to go up. But when I'm using the horse who lights the spear, it goes from lacking to either on par or better than the sword and bow. In my opinion, it's one of the most fun weapons I've used in Minecraft, so I'd hate to see it get nerfed. After testing it out, I feel rightfully balanced, as it needs to mount or elytra to deal actual damage, and sure the damage you can do with the elytra is pretty strong, but the elytra is an endgame item, and you're also risking slamming your head into the ground if you miss. I agree that we need stronger enemies to make our weapons really shine, but even without the spear and mace, this game is still easy, as the sword and bow is more than enough to deal with the enemies we have now. The spear and mace don't change how easy Minecraft is, since we already did have incredibly strong gear before that. If you only didn't read, Minecraft was easy, and still is easy. All you need is a change diamond armor, or another armor and a change of sword, and bow and you're almost invincible. The spear and mace doesn't change that. This was the first comment I actually read that made me think about that honestly changed my mind about my stance on the previous video. And the way they started was great. I do agree, spear and mace are not OP for your everyday life. They are very powerful though, I will still state that. But the mace, like you said, is situational, and I honestly don't think it has enough reward for you to go get it, because there's no mob that didn't take it. Wither, Ender Dragon, and Warden, like you said, they're easily killed without the mace, so the existence of the mace is undermined, and it doesn't feel cool to get. It's unnecessary to get. Not that it doesn't have to be necessary to get, but I'll never seek it out unless I want the trophy, basically. Spear is in a good spot. Its encouragement of using mounts and other mechanics is great. I understand that the mace can do that with wind charges and jump boosts and stuff, but the mace just isn't as good of a one, because it's got multi-hitting. At least there's more you can do with it, and the mounts needed a reason to be used, because no one uses mounts ever. I will still stand by lunge to be really good. I think that lunge would be way too powerful still. It now takes less hunger, and it takes a little bit of durability, but I think it's still be way better. I think this is still better because it makes you lose less food, so you can eat that little bit. I don't know. I guess it's not that much better, but still, I think it's a spear lunge would be too good, and netherite armor is redundant compared to diamond armor. It's just not good enough of a buff to make it actually worth it. Besides the trophy. Great comment. I actually really like this one. Alright, thanks for watching. I will say this: I don't plan on making only this style of content. I don't want to sit here and complain or talk about Minecraft's game balance. I do enjoy talking about Minecraft's game balance, but I don't want to solely do that. I want my channel to do other things than just that, so don't expect only that from this channel.